Okay, folks, this is Rick, and you're at your seat at the table, of course. I've had a slight update to my software program here, and its layout is a little different than it was before, so hopefully I'm not screwing things up. Right? Excuse me. It is November 1st. It is the sun's shining. It's 30 odd degrees outside. The wind's blowing like crazy. I got myself a nice glass of cider, which I don't drink too often because the stuff's just a bit more pricier than I'd like to spend. $5 for a half gallon. And I had to have one. Of course, the wife had to have one with a different flavor, which then, well, now we spend $10. Could have got a gallon for 6. Anyway, and there's Frankie, the shelter cat, deciding she wants to escape the room instead of being here. My wife and I went out a couple weeks ago to JCD and Hobby on the south side of Des Moines to just basically get out of the house and spend a little money. And they have a bottom shelf in the game section for used material. And then they put it up on the shelf, and then as time goes by and it doesn't sell, or depending on its condition, they drop prices. In this case, I ran into a new game system I have never seen before. The Faded Almanac Through the Breach. It's listed as a $40 book, and if you look at the condition is nearly, says pre-owned, pre-owned there on the binding, but the book itself, it looks really new. There's a crease in the cover, but they posted it for $4.99. You probably can't see that. It's just not reflecting well. Anyway, so control your destiny. Journey through the breach into the world of Malafox, where the steam power collides with magic, monsters, and steel. This Faded Almanac is essential home for players of Through the Breach role-playing game. It includes the core rules as well as equipment, magic, background information, everything you need to become a power-mad arcanist, lethal gunslinger, or a ruthless mercenary lies in these pages. Are you prepared to forge your own destiny as one of the fated? It is time to cheat fate or lose your soul. So I'm still working my way through it. It's pretty extensive. There's a lot going on in here. The setting is roughly 1800 in and out. We have some sort of breach has occurred between two worlds, and magic is in our world has diminished to the point of just being almost occultism and very tricks of the mind is what some people would say. Apparently all the would-be tricksters of the mind or latent magicians of the world got together and went through this ritualistic formula that forced open a breach to another dimension. And in that dimension, magic or the elements of it leak into the world through these things called soul stones. And going through the breach was this abandoned city. And within the city, a lot of stuff, lots of magic, lots of arcanic artifacts laying around. Meanwhile, we have a world of steam tech, steam power, and we get this combination thereof. The breach stays open for about 10 years or so, and enough so that the city starts to become re-inhabited by humans, and the surrounding outlands are starting to be probed, and then suddenly the breach collapses, and the only sign that the world gets is this body of a person that's thrown through, and it's burned into his chest that this is ours, or something to that effect. And then several years later, the breach reestablishes itself, and the city's empty again. So make what you will of that. I have not gone completely through it, but it seems like a very different game system. I think I could find myself enjoying it if I had a group of people that was willing to play it and worked our way through it. A lot of it is card based. So when we talk about fates and things like this, you're going to use a deck of cards. I get the impression that there was actually a specialty card set that you could purchase to go with this, but you don't. It's not. I've yet to see any indication for the use of dice. So we're using a card-based system, which is great, which is fine. I'm familiar with that on more levels than I like to admit. Anyway, there's so much in here. So much colorful artwork. somebody put a lot of effort. These people did. This company, Weird. It's originally called Weird Miniatures LLC. So I don't know if this is a game system intended to use miniature or to cater to miniatures or not. I'm still working through. There's a lot of good stuff in here. The introduction's very detailed, and it's appealing. I've always liked Steam Tech and the possibilities of Magic crossing over. This is one of the reasons I was a big fan of Shadowrun, still am, although it would be information age technology and Magic, but this would be a much earlier technological world, mechanically speaking, than Shadowrun, but the principle is not, I would just say parallels, maybe not completely city. There's Millifaux, as in, faux, fake, whatever, and obviously a little bit of information about the city itself and the surrounding areas. And there's no inhabitants that we've encountered as of yet, but there's possibilities here. If anybody has any idea, any information on this book system, more than happy to let please post and tell us about it. Tell us your experience about it. There's mechanicals, there's possible undead. The soul stones are obviously the most powerful objects. There's a mine where soul stones can be mined just outside the city bounds in a very dangerous territory. There are, for the lack of a word, alien creatures and things like that do exist in this world, but they're very extremely dangerous and difficult to find. Usually when you find one or stumble across one, you're in trouble. The soul stones themselves can come through the breach and be functioned in the real world. Because of the early implications of the power, a major war was fought on the Earth side of the breach. They call it the Black Powder War for technical reasons. Lots of magic was exposed, burned up. A lot of these soul stones were depleted. In order to, as the soul stones name suggests, in order for them to be re-energized, they need to be near somebody who's dying, who dies, because they capture the essence or energy of that person's life force, and then that is the well or the font that the magician, the spellcaster, can use to project their spells and to power them, is my understanding. Now, I don't have a solid grip on how the system works. Things like variations of our standard. I've said it before, most game systems today follow a certain formula, and within that formula there are many unique or divergent formulas, but they still follow similar patterns. So some of these things, it's just a matter of a name change. So like, we're looking at their version of spells. They call them slightly different. They function quite similarly. Talents would be basically feats, called shot, clear orders, counter spell, better part of valor, armor training. I mean, it's just, it is how it works. So you have weapons, you have melee weapons, you have combat, you have mid-level, early turn of the century firearms, black powder, flintlocks, more advanced versions, getting into the early 1820s, 1840s style of weapons. Then there's evidence of more technologically advanced weapons. So the world of Earth is not our world. It is a parallel Earth that taps through this breach, because there's some divergence in the late 1700s, early 1800s, how the world's technology is formed. From what I can tell so far, like I said, it is pretty good sized book, and I have yet to work my way completely through it. And there you have, it's a very interesting thing. It's good for reading and for nothing else. I'm an advocate of, if you're going to be a storyteller or a game master, yes, you can get a set of blinders on, and you can focus exclusively into one game system that is your thing, and that's absolutely wonderful. That's a great thing. But I have a belief that the more you expose yourself to, the more that you read up on and experience, the broader your knowledge for the game, for gaming in general will be, and giving you insights and tips and tricks and other things to apply as the game master or storyteller. And as for just entertainment value alone, so if you can go to your local gaming store or some other place and find things like this on this discount, and it's cheap. So this cost me $5. I could never argue with $5. That's not going to make or break me, but it's definitely going to give me many hours of entertaining fun just reading through and trying to comprehend better how and why things are set up the way they work in here. And I'm just starting to, like I said, to get into, you know, the mechanics of the game system itself, and it's pretty simplistic. A lot of it is story first, story based, but it's backed up, like I said, with some kind of use of the cards, of a deck of cards. So like here, you know, this card is ace whatever, second whatever. So in this case, I don't know if I have to figure out if the symbol represents, you know, spades. So ace of spades, perhaps the seven of hearts, what have you, but the principle's similar. So we're going to, you could easily assign, you know, a regular deck of cards to the symbology here and make it function without the need for dice, which in and of itself is a bit novel because you just don't find a whole lot of game systems today that are not connected to the dice in some form. There you have it. The Faded Almanac for the game system Through the Breach by Weird Miniatures.